Hello, everybody, and today we are here to review the final season of Star Wars The Clone Wars. So, you're probably wondering why am I reviewing The Clone Wars, the final season in the middle of January? Because we've been reviewing The Clone Wars for a while, and I finally want to finish it. I thought about putting these into two parts, but hey, let's just make this a long video. So, this season came out 2020. So it's already been 4 years, 3.5 years. This show has finally had its conclusion. And when I saw the trailer for this, I was thinking, whoa. I was thinking it was just some random Clone Wars teaser for something that's already came out. But no, it was season 7 of the show. I was like, holy crap, we're finally getting this conclusion we've been waiting. Season 6 wasn't really much of a conclusion. It felt like the show kind of just stopped, like it randomly ended, and that's how it was for a while until they announced it. So this season is like put into various arcs. The first is the Bad Batch arc. Next is the Ahsoka's, I guess, life on her own arc, whatever you want to call it. I feel like I just want to quickly go over these episodes, and then we'll get to the really good stuff. So, the Bad Batch episodes, they're pretty good. They're not my favorite, but it's a nice introduction to the characters, because if it wasn't for these episodes, we probably would not gotten the Bad Batch show, and basically the finale for the clone troopers of Star Wars. But basically is where the Separatists are predicting the Clone Forces' various moves, and Captain Rex is suspecting that there's something more sinister going on, that he believes their old comrade Echo is alive. So if you don't know, Echo died in Season 3 on the Citadel arc. He was exploded and we thought he was gone, but nope. Turns out he's alive. And that's basically the mission. And so Rex, Cody, Anakin Skywalker are all here to team up with a group of rogue clones called the Bad Batch. So I've already talked about the Bad Batch on my channel plenty of times, but I'll give you all up to speed. So we got Hunter, Wrecker, Crosshair, Tech. I know there's Omega, but they don't meet her till the show. But the Batch is pretty fun characters. A lot of people don't like the Bad Batch characters. I just don't understand why. But I feel the connections more when we see them in the show. Like, you feel their fun energy. They're more like clones who don't necessarily follow orders, but they kind of just do their own thing. Like, Hunter's the leader with hyper senses. Wrecker is really strong. Crosshair is a good sharpshooter. And Tech is has an intelligent mind. And so the clones are sent to go find the signal where is what could lead to taking down our armed forces. And we get basically the next few episodes are kind of just a lot of battle episodes. I don't know how to describe it, but we see the Batch take down some droids. It's a little fun, but eventually they do get a signal that is that has Echo's voice, and Rex believes it could be him. But the next episode where things do take a turn, where the Batch team up with Anakin on a mission to find Echo at some station. We find out who's really behind it is Admiral Trench. He's alive again. We thought he died, but no. But I think he was in the 6th season. Yeah, he was. But apparently the character just keeps coming back. But we get this one scene. That's probably my favorite scene of this. Is where Obi-Wan is suspecting something's going on with Anakin. He takes Rex's helmet to clean it. But what he's really doing is talking to Padme. And this is the last time we see Padme in this show. They have a little talk. It's very nice. But Obi-Wan's wondering what Rex is doing, what Anakin is doing. But of course, Anakin is just comes out. It's like, hey, I fixed your helmet. And then Obi-Wan says, oh, I hope you told Padme I said hello. So yeah, that's a clue that Obi-Wan knows Anakin is in a relationship with Padme. But he doesn't do anything about it because he has some respect for Anakin. But the rest of the episode is where they do go up against the droid forces, and we see, like, I forget what those type of battle droids are called. They look very different. But eventually, I thought Echo was going to be saved at the last second, like the third of the episode, but no, he's rescued literally in this episode. When they do find Echo, he is covered in wires, and like it's very brutal to watch. You feel super sorry for this guy, like he's apparently being used as like a machine. But apparently in like the third episode, we meet like these like group of species who speak a different language. I forget what they're called. They're called the Kendrinks. But basically Tech is able to analyze their language. And yeah, they first don't get along with them, but then eventually they do get along with them. We kind of seen this in the Clone Wars before, but it's mainly about them trying to help Echo. And they have to go through like tightrope walking or whatever. And like they have to go through the various traps the Separatists put. And it's very surface level, and it's just a lot of action. The third episode's like it's just that. But once we get to the fourth episode, that's where things do take a turn, is where we do see our characters finally coming together to defeat Admiral Trench, and it's very entertaining for our characters because we see Echo in like a new uniform. He's got like a new hand or something. He's gonna use that to help our squad. But the batch do help Anakin track down Admiral Trench, and then eventually, like Obi-Wan and Mace Windu try to top the Separatist forces. And I do like the scene where Mace Windu tries to reason with the battle droids, but of course they just attack them. And then eventually, we do get the showdown with Anakin and Admiral Trench, and Anakin just gives in to his anger, and he just stabs Admiral Trench. And it's very brutal, and this time he actually dies. But once the day is saved, where the Republic forces versus the Separatists finally come together, and they defeat them. And I think the villain behind all this is also Walt Tambor, who is doing bad things to the native species they met in the fourth episode. But the episode does end with... It originally was supposed to end with the characters getting their awards, but instead they changed it to where the batch are just like, that's not really our thing. But Rex says those are some of the best soldiers I've ever worked with, and he gives Echo a choice to just... He can stay with him or join the Bad Batch. Because the Batch were offering him to join. But Echo decides he's going to join the Bad Batch. And that's what sets up his role in the Bad Batch. But Rex salutes the Bad Batch. And I think that's the episode. So yeah, I'm sorry if I skipped some things. But the Bad Batch arc, it's a fine arc. It's just like a lot of action, like I said. It's like kind of just like an early start to the pace the Clone Wars had, where there are just a lot of episodes where the characters battle the Separatists and they fight some greedy Separatist leader. But I'm surprised they didn't show Count Dooku in like some of these episodes, because usually Dooku is the reason for some of these Separatist plots, but we don't see him at all this season. He's only mentioned. We'll get to that in a bit. But the Bad Batch arc I'll probably just give like a 7 out of 10. But next is like an arc that I really could not get into. It is the Ahsoka arc. This is where we see what Ahsoka has been up to. So up to speed, Ahsoka was accused of murder in the 5th season, and she had to clear her name. And when she did, she decided to leave the Jedi Order because she feels she can't trust them. And she had to say goodbye to Anakin. And it's very powerful stuff. Some of the best Star Wars, in my opinion. But now we're seeing what Ahsoka's been up to, since we didn't get that the last season. But originally it was supposed to be different. In an unaired version of this episode, Ahsoka meets a guy, but this time, in these episodes, it's changed to the Martez sisters. So Ahsoka is like traveling through Coruscant, trying to live her life, but she ends up having her speeder bike break, and she crashes into the Martez sisters, his a parking garage. But once we meet them, the episodes kind of just become... So apparently, these sisters live in the Coruscant level 1313, and apparently they have like a grudge against the Jedi. We learn about that later in the episodes. But apparently they made a deal with the Pikes. But before they can do that, the episode's mainly where they encounter like a robot, and Ahsoka's trying to get them from getting over their heads. She basically tries to stop them. She uses the Force to, after one of the robots goes off and one of the sisters almost falls off of the balcony of Coruscant, but they're kind of suspecting. They don't suspect that Ahsoka's a Jedi, but they wonder how she knows a lot. But the next episode is where they go on their little heist to encounter the Pikes, and so they can make a deal with them. But Ahsoka says it's a bad idea, but they don't listen. But I might as well talk about the Martez sisters. So I never really cared for the characters. I feel when we see them in these episodes, the episodes just kind of drag out, and they kind of just become the weakest of them. But that's my main issue with these episodes. But they're overall fine characters. They like just don't trust Ahsoka, or not really like Ahsoka. One of the sisters does, but the other doesn't. It's Trace and Rafa, that's their names. But things do take a turn is when they do make a deal. They do get like Republic spice, but I don't know why I said Republic. But what happens is I think Trace and Ahsoka get into it's Rafa and Ahsoka get into a fight, and she ends up dropping all the spice. I think Trace does, because she wanted to end the argument, and this was a bad decision. Even Ahsoka calls it out, saying that's not a good choice, and that's what leads to the conflict of the next few episodes. Is they try to deliver it to the Pikes, but the Pikes don't trust them. And they eventually do find out, and it leads to them getting captured by the Pikes. And then the third episode's kind of just the episode that's the same episode. But when they did leave Coruscant earlier, I'd give them this. Like, we do get a scene that's similar to Empire Strikes Back, where Darth Vader allows Luke... Wait, no, it's Return of the Jedi. Vader allows Luke to go to Endor. But it's like in this, where Anakin sees the ship and he senses something, but he just allows Ahsoka and her friends to leave Coruscant. And we even hear Admiral Yularen. But once the sisters do team up with Ahsoka, they end up having to try to find a way to escape the prison of the Pikes, and they enter the city of the Pikes, and they're being followed by Bo-Katan, and then eventually they get captured, and then it kind of just felt like the episode was just repeating itself. And so that episode was really a downer. But what happens next is, like, the Pikes do reveal Ahsoka is a Jedi when they escape again, when they decide to let the Martez sisters go, and Ahsoka would stay behind. But they are shocked when they try to go back for Ahsoka because they feel compassionate for her. But when Ahsoka does escape, she ends up going into the factory where they're making the spice. And we get this one scene of Darth Maul, which was nice. And I do like the scene where Ahsoka sees what's going on and she quickly leaves the scene. And then Maul almost sees something, and he almost saw her. That was an interesting scene. But yeah, eventually the Martez sisters give the Pikes their spice, and they get into a battle, and then they escape, and then they don't trust Ahsoka. They're saying, oh, you're going to arrest us for spice smuggling? But Ahsoka says, like, hey, I'm not a Jedi anymore. And they're like, I don't understand. Why would you want to leave? She says it's complicated. But they don't care. But they're all interrupted by Bo-Katan, who has shown up. And Ahsoka doesn't trust her at first, but she shows a hologram of what's going on. And it's Darth Maul. And so Ahsoka leaves with Bo-Katan. And some people didn't like how, like, Ahsoka was easy to trust Bo-Katan. But Bo-Katan literally tells her that they're not on Maul's side, they're not on Pre Vizsla's side anymore. Or whatever they're saying, they're on the good side or whatever. But that's where it sets up the whole Siege of Mandalore arc. So it's Siege of Mandalore, we are ready to talk about it. So, yeah, the Martez sisters arc, that episode arc was just, it's boring in my opinion. It's just like, I really wish they could have maybe structured it a little better. But, honestly, these few episodes of the Clone Wars, like, they could have been, like, average for me. Average episodes. But once they get to the Siege of Mandalore, it's like they've been trying to build up towards it. Like, these episodes are kind of just like, yeah, we'll give you these episodes, but once we get to the good stuff, then the show gets really good. It's easily becoming the best Star Wars. But what happens is, it takes place during Revenge of the Sith. So, it opens with Anakin Skywalker on his planet. Wait, no, it's with Obi-Wan on his planet. And Anakin apparently finished his battle. And he decides to distract the droids there. And he's like saying, I come to surrender. But then it's all an elaborate scheme. We see the return of R2. I was wondering if we were going to see R2 this season. But we did. And he's got Rex and a bunch of other of his clones on their jetpacks, and eventually R2 creates the distraction, and then Anakin's able to save the day and help Obi-Wan with their mission. But Anakin and Obi-Wan are called to respond to a message from Fulcrum. They think it's Saw Gerrera, but no, it is Ahsoka. She has been working with Bo-Katan for a while, and she has come for aid. And I do like the scene where, like, Ahsoka does reunite with R2. She pats him on the head. R2's happy, of course. But Bo-Katan is saying they're wasting their time. They're trying to look for forces to take down Maul. But Obi-Wan is like, no, we can't help. But Anakin decides he wants to send a small portion of their squad to go help Ahsoka and Bo-Katan and her people. But while this all goes on, Ahsoka and Anakin have a nice touching moment where they talk to each other about loyalty of the clones. No matter what Ahsoka went through, the clones still appreciate Ahsoka. And we see Captain Rex and a bunch of other clones in orange marking of Ahsoka's colors. And Ahsoka's got brand new lightsabers, but it's all interrupted by Obi-Wan running into the room saying that the Chancellor has been kidnapped. And Anakin and Obi-Wan unfortunately cannot go to Mandalore to help out because they gotta go save the Chancellor. But Ahsoka is very disappointed by this news, but Obi-Wan assures them that this is important. And we did get an other scene where they bring up Satine, which was nice. But I guess Obi-Wan's got to do his duty. But Anakin and Ahsoka have their final moment together, where they're saying they're gonna go help out with the Chancellor, and that's the last they ever see of each other. I'll get more on that later. But what happens is Ahsoka, Bo-Katan, Rex all go to Mandalore. and it leads to a giant fight. And apparently we even see the sort of the governor of Mandalore. He's apparently knowing Maul's there, but Ahsoka literally, we get this awesome scene where Ahsoka and Rex literally are racing each other to go see who gets to the top. But Ahsoka's jumping on various gunships, and she pulls out her lightsabers and she takes out some of the Maul's Mandalorian troops, and that's a very badass scene. But it's all ended. But when she goes to the sewer area, I think I'm missing some things, but sorry. But Ahsoka eventually finds one of the other clone commanders that have been shot and killed. And apparently they are being ambushed by Maul, who says, "I was hoping for Kenobi. Why are you here?" And of course it ended on a cliffhanger. So that episode was easily fantastic. It ties to Revenge of the Sith, Ahsoka and Anakin's final moment. It's very touching stuff. But then the next episode where things get even more good, where Ahsoka has a small duel with Darth Maul, but then that won't be till later. But Ahsoka decides to have a final talk with Obi-Wan, and apparently it's been hours later, and we find out what's been going on. But we find out that Darth Maul has revealed little secrets, where he has said stuff about Darth Sidious and stuff, but Ahsoka is confused on who Sidious could be, and so she decides, after her little fight with Maul, she decides to ask Obi-Wan, who's this Darth Sidious. Even Bo-Katan's wondering, but Obi-Wan says that Darth Sidious has been the Sith Lord that the Jedi have been looking for. But Obi-Wan only learned of it when he was on Geonosis. That was back in Attack of the Clones. But Ahsoka asks what more information they could have on Sidious, but they can't find it because Anakin has killed Count Dooku. So the events have already happened. Anakin's already saved the Chancellor. He's killed Count Dooku. And he's getting with Padme, of course, and she's revealed that she's pregnant. So this is all taking place during Revenge of the Sith. But Ahsoka asks if Anakin can show up at Mandalore, but Obi-Wan says he can't, and he has to talk about it with her privately. But apparently Anakin's on a special assignment to spy on the Chancellor. So we've already made it to that part, and Anakin's already been denied being on the Jedi Council, being a master. But Ahsoka basically is wondering why they're doing this. But Obi-Wan says it's because they believe the Chancellor is suspicious because he still wants to be the Chancellor when his term is expired. But Ahsoka tries to tell Obi-Wan good luck because he's about to go to Utapau to find General Grievous. We even saw an early shot in the flashback of the episode before the episode started. We saw all the Jedi on their missions before Order 66. We even saw General Grievous. So that was cool. But this is the last time we see Obi-Wan in this show. So yeah. Because he's busy doing stuff with Anakin. Because their two are dueling on Mustafar. So that's the foreshadowing, because Anakin and Obi-Wan are too busy to show up what Ahsoka's been up to. But what is going on is Ahsoka encounters the forces of Maul, and they do capture the governor, but they ask why they're after Anakin Skywalker, because Maul mentioned that earlier. But he was about to say, because he was about to say he was the chosen one, but he gets shot before he can say anything by Gar Saxon. But I forgot to mention Gar Saxon's in this. Rest in peace to Ray Stevenson. This is the last time he played Gar Saxon. But they decide to chase the remaining forces. And it leads to Bo-Katan, Ahsoka, Rex going into the hallway room of the main room of Mandalore. And that's where they encounter Maul, who has also captured Jesse to find out the truth about the clones, and he used Jesse. But they managed to rescue Jesse, and I do like the scene where Bo-Katan tries to shoot Maul, but he just blocks all her blast and just says, "That's not how you treat your ruler." But what happens next is we get the most awesome scene in Star Wars, the awesome duel of Ahsoka versus Maul. But before that can happen, Ahsoka asks Maul, why are they after Anakin Skywalker? Is because Maul believes that he is the chosen one to bring balance to the Force. And that's why he wants to bring him to take out his enemies. But he offers Ahsoka to be part of his cause. Because he believes the Jedi and Sith are just failing each other. And we even saw a scene where Maul even talks to his crime syndicates. We even see a cameo from Dryden Voss from Solo, but that was a cool cameo. But Maul decides he's gonna make a final stand with the Mandalorians, saying they will die as warriors. But we know Maul doesn't actually value them. But Ahsoka actually accepts the offer Maul is making, but but once Maul starts saying how Anakin will turn to the darkness, Ahsoka's not buying it because Maul just wants to basically just take over Sidious's place, and that's why he wants Anakin. But Ahsoka pulls out her lightsabers, so does Maul, and he says, I see the Padawan needs one last lesson. But he pulls out the lightsaber, and then we get probably the best lightsaber duel in the show. Ahsoka versus Maul. It is easily the most entertaining, and I even like how Ahsoka mocks Darth Maul, saying, you wouldn't last long. But Maul manages to get away, and he's basically just a goose chase. But eventually, we get this awesome scene. Ahsoka loses her lightsabers when trying to chase Maul, but she manages to find a way to trip Maul, and Maul falls off, and he's saying how they're all going to burn. But they capture Maul, and that's the episode. So the Phantom Apprentice was easily just a love letter to what's been going on with the continuity of Star Wars and Revenge of the Sith. It's so good. But things get really good is the next episode. Is where Ahsoka is going to deliver Maul back to Coruscant. But we get this one scene where like Ahsoka says she's a citizen. I never really got that line, but Ahsoka has her farewell to Bo-Katan. She and the two exchange goodbyes, and this is where things get really good. We get a literal shot-for-shot scene of the scene where Mace Windu is suspecting the Chancellor's up to something. We even see archive lines from Ki-Adi-Mundi, but we also see Yoda say his lines, and apparently Rex was at the meeting before Anakin, so Ahsoka was about to see Anakin, but he already left to go inform the Chancellor. So that means Palpatine's already about to reveal that he's the Sith Lord, and they even say General Grievous is being pursued by Obi-Wan, so yeah, it's all coming together. But Ahsoka tries to ask what Anakin's doing, but Mace Windu says, sorry, citizen, we can't reveal that to you. So yeah, it's a weird line, since, Mace Windu, he isn't exactly the most, compassionate Jedi. He wasn't even exactly compassionate towards Ahsoka, but he at least tried to after she proved her innocence, but now he's going back to being kind of hard towards her, so yeah, it's a little weird. But all the Jedi leave, and Yoda, we see the final scene of Yoda where he asks Ahsoka if she wants to send a message to Anakin. She's like, no, I'll tell him myself. But Yoda tells her, may the Force be with you. But Captain Rex says, hey, you didn't tell them about what Maul said. But I guess Ahsoka wants to wait. But this is where things get really good. Things get quiet. We see the music playing. Everything's going casual for Ahsoka and Rex. They're just talking with the other troops as the ship's going into hyperspace. Maul's put into like some prison thing. This like prison room thing that's like keeping him from escaping. It's supposed to block out his force abilities. But this is where things take a turn. Where Ahsoka and Rex have a final, not really final, but they have a touching moment where Ahsoka's wondering, was she really meant to be a Jedi or was he just a soldier this whole time? But Rex reflects that if the war never happened, then the clones wouldn't exist, and that's a fair point. But they get a message from a mysterious figure. We don't know who it is. But Ahsoka decides to stay behind while Rex goes checks it out. But this is where Ahsoka gets a sort of headache. And she hears the voice of Hayden Christensen's Anakin battling Mace Windu, who has already encountered the Chancellor. And he's about to kill the Chancellor. And Anakin stops it. And we even see it even changes from Hayden to Matt Lander saying, "What have I done?" And Ahsoka just decides to visit what's going on. But this is where we see a hologram of Darth Sidious. And he, of course, says, "Execute Order 66. And I'm surprised. Rex. It's heartbreaking to see Rex drop his helmet. And he literally says, "Fives, find him." Like he's trying to resist the control of Order 66. But unfortunately, they attack Ahsoka. They shoot at her. And it's very powerful stuff. Ahsoka gets out of there in the nick of time. But the clones are all deciding that all the Jedi are traitors. And they're going to go after them. And they can't control themselves because of Order 66. It's the sad truth of the clone troopers. But Rex decides to follow along with it. So some people believe Rex didn't commit Order 66 because he said he removed his chip. Gregor and Wolf did, so it kind of retcons that. But then again, he just said he removed it. He didn't say he obeyed it. But Ahsoka manages to find a way to get to Rex. She sneaks in to Maul's chamber and she frees him from his chamber. And she's wondering if it's his doing. And he's like, "No, it's not me." And she decides that she must have a distraction because there's too many clones. And some people didn't like that, how Ahsoka freed Maul and letting him cause chaos. Then again, I don't know. I guess Ahsoka had to risk everything to get herself out of this situation. But she decides to find a way to get to Rex. She finds her old droid from her own astromech droid. And I do like all the astromechs gather around her. But they apparently are going to find out what's going on. But she ends up finding the information they found on Fives. And we even see an old recording of Rex reflecting on what Fives said. So yeah. And she finds out that the clones have all been programmed to do this. And she tries to tell Rex this when they end up locking in a room on Rex. And the droids actually take him out. Like, they knock him out. But Ahsoka confronts Rex. And she actually tries to find a way to find his inhibitor chip. And we get this nice scene where they say, "I'm one with the Force is with me," just like Chirrut in the Rogue One. But Ahsoka finds the inhibitor chip, takes it out, and Rex is out of Order 66 mode. So yeah, Rex didn't betray his Jedi. He was forced to at first, but then he gets the inhibitor chip out. But it's interrupted by a bunch of clones who attack Ahsoka. And she tries to defend herself, but she ends up almost getting shot. But Rex swoops in and actually shoots at the clones. And he's like, "Oh my god, I just tried to kill you." But then Ahsoka then realizes what's going on. All the clones are all betraying the Jedi because they're in Order 66 mode because of their inhibitor chips. And that's where it leads to the final episode. death and victory. So this is where basically Ahsoka and Rex are trying to escape. They try to escape, I think, all the clones, but there's too many of them. And something even worse happened. Maul ended up going into the hyperdrive room, and he took out the clones in there, and he destroyed the hyperdrive, causing the Republic cruiser to fall into a moon. But Maul is actually trying to escape, but we get this touching moment with Rex and Ahsoka where they feel like they have to admit the defeat because Ahsoka doesn't want to hurt them. But as Rex is like, hey, I hate to break it to you, but they don't care. And it's very true. But Rex ends up crying. It's a touching moment. And Ahsoka says, you're a good soldier, Rex. And so are those people. So they've come up with a new diversion. They're going to send the droids in an area where apparently the clones are all standing on a landing pad thing. And if the droids hack into it, they'll all fall to their deaths. But they try to talk to the clones. They try to talk to Jesse specifically. And Rex says, hey, Ahsoka's no longer a Jedi. And hasn't been for some time. But then the clones say, we got specific orders from Darth Sidious that we're supposed to execute the Jedi for treason. But the clones aren't buying it, and Captain Rex says, hey, I didn't like being a commander. Because earlier he was promoted to commander because Ahsoka's not part of the Republic or whatever. But the droids knock down all the clones, and Ahsoka manages to force push and stun. Rex stuns most of them, but they try to escape in a shuttle they found. But Maul ends up taking it, and they try to take out Maul, but he manages to escape, and Ahsoka tries to force pull, I think, his ship, but Maul manages to escape after Ahsoka realizes they are just outnumbered. And even the droid, Ahsoka's droid, gets shot in the head. That was sad. And also the other droids, they end up lifting all the clones back up, but the clones end up shooting both of the droids. It's sad. But Ahsoka and Rex end up finding a Y-Wing, and they manage to escape. And we get this touching moment where Ahsoka and Rex actually try to go back to the cruiser when it crashed, and they bury all the clones as much as they can find. They even found Jesse, and they put all their helmets as like little graves, which was nice. But Ahsoka decides to fake her death by dropping her lightsaber and leaving it behind. And Ahsoka and Rex take off. And in Tales of the Jedi, we actually see where they went. They actually went to Padme's funeral, which was touching since Ahsoka and Padme were such good friends. But they flash forward to the future where we see Darth Vader go to the planet with a bunch of snowtroopers, and Vader finds Ahsoka's lightsaber, and if you look in the detail, Vader actually had blue eyes, and we even see the Morai owl. We always see when there's something related to Ahsoka. But Vader thinks Ahsoka's dead until they meet each other again in Star Wars Rebels, and we even see a shattered clone helmet. And that's the end of Star Wars The Clone Wars. Easily my top favorite shows. Yeah, not every episode worked for me, but I have a lot of nostalgia for this show. It's easily some of the best Star Wars. It grew and matured over time as this show got really dark. Had so many cool villains, so many cool story arcs. It's a basic love letter to the Clone Wars. It actually quite fixes the random issues people had with the prequels. And it makes the prequels even... You can appreciate the prequels a lot more. But I don't know if I like the prequels a lot more than the Clone Wars. I think I like the Clone Wars a lot more. But this was easily an intense season. If it wasn't for the Siege of Mandalore, this episode would be average for me. But those 4 episodes of Siege of Mandalore, it's easily a 10 out of 10. Some of the best Star Wars of all time. And people have already said it. But I don't know what's next for Star Wars animation. I hope we do get more. But we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe we'll get some more at Star Wars Celebration. But whatever we get, I'm going to be on board with it. Star Wars The Clone Wars, easily, like I said, best show. And are we going to review Rebels? I'm probably going to wait on Star Wars Rebels. I really want to review it, but now I just need a little break. And we're going to focus on other shows, but I hope you enjoyed this review. So with that being said, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always.